All right, what up? As you can see from the bags under my eyes, I did not sleep well last night, despite my brand new bed. But my girlfriend was over again. Board games, these things happen. Today's video is about leadership. Now you might say, Evan, who are you to talk about leadership? All right, what have you got going on in your life? How are you a leader? Okay, first of all, everyone has the capability to be a leader. All right, a leader in the home, in the workplace, in the gym where you volunteer, any clubs you participate in, sports teams, you have the opportunity to be a leader. Now, my philosophy on what leadership does, one, they make decisions, and for the most part, difficult decisions. Two, they set the standards. And three, it's managing personnel. So, one, you have to make decisions as a leader. For the most part, you'll find yourself in groups and there will be a question or a problem that comes up, and it's the responsibility of a leader to make a decision. It doesn't have to be the right decision or the good decision or the best decision, but decisions have to be made, and whoever makes those, for the most part, is a leader. Two, you have to set the standard for whatever it is that you're doing. If you're on a sports team, how often you're practicing, how hard you're working, the intensity, the silliness or seriousness of practice, right? If you're on a team for the workplace, a firefighter, how often are you training? Are you prioritizing your chores and your duties and responsibilities? Are you taking care of people with meals, or at least setting that up? These are things that it takes to be a leader, and it's difficult. It's an extra layer of complexity that you have to deal with, an extra set of problems that you have to solve. But the payoff is huge because you then gain this skill set that is extremely important and transferable to almost every other domain in life. The third piece is personnel management, and what that has to do is put people in a place to succeed. So what you're doing is evaluating everyone's strengths and weaknesses. You're putting them in places that leverage their strengths and minimize their weaknesses. Okay, so if you're on a vehicle fire, and person A is really good at chalking the vehicle, but they're not so strong on the hose line, you're going to get them to chalk the vehicle. All right, and then you're going to put someone else who's got a strength on the hose to attack with the hose line. Now, there's transitionary periods where you want to train people, and so you might put them in positions where they're a little bit weaker or they have less experience to gain that experience. And that's also valuable and a part of leadership. That's understanding a quick risk management assessment and evaluating, okay, what are the risks here? You're not going to send in a probie on a house fire on the hose, first day, because that's too risky to themselves and to others. But it's a gradual increase of responsibilities. Now, if you're on the same level of someone, what can you do there? You can make decisions. You can set standards, but you're not necessarily going to manage personnel. Okay? So there's a leadership position, and then there's leadership qualities and actions that leaders do. Now, you don't have to be a leader to set the standard or to make difficult decisions, but those are qualities of a good leader, or what a leader does. It's important to know your role in the hierarchy, if you will, right? You look at some of these NBA players, some of these contracts that are coming out are absolutely absurd. But it's because people know their lane. They know their role. If you're a three-point shooter and defender, NBA teams want you for that role. Not everyone is a superstar. So it's understanding your personnel, understanding yourself, the strengths and weaknesses of everyone on the team or organization, and maximizing people's effectiveness by putting them in positions to succeed. So that's leadership in a nutshell. When you are on a team and you have teammates, you can make decisions, you can set the standard. You are trying, if you say you got the problems arise in leadership is when you have problems, when you have people who aren't performing, people who aren't carrying their weight. What distinguishes leadership qualities from an actual leader, in my opinion, is guiding your teammates. Your responsibility, if you're on the same level, if you're both firefighters or you're both basketball players or whatever, you've got the same seniority, your responsibility is to guide them, not tell them what to do, but to provide insight, for drawing on your experience or the experience of others that you know about, stories, what have you, things that you know, that you use, that you can share. And that makes them better. And it takes a certain amount of ego management to look at that situation and go, I want to treat this person how I would like to be treated. And you'd be amazed how quickly the culture changes when people are looking out for each other. When you've got your buddy's back and he's got yours, or your teammates or your coworkers. And so you've got to be a little bit careful, because half of the battle is ego management. So if a little trick is, you don't want to tell someone what to do. That would be coming from a place of authority, and that's what you'd expect from your coach, from your chief, lieutenant, captain, etc. You want to ask them, hint, right? This is about guiding, slowly and subtly guiding people in the right direction. It's not about dictating the terms. You can do that once you're in a leadership position. Even the best leaders, though, yes, they know when to make those hard decisions and when to tell people what needs to be done, but there's a way of delivering it that works with that ego management, right? And that just comes with the psychology piece of understanding where everyone's at, understanding their skill set, their experience, and that makes you a better leader if you're able to navigate that successfully and subtly. But there's different levels to life, of course. There's hierarchies that exist. There's positions and seniority. And if you're on the bottom rung of seniority, your job is to manage your own ego, keep your own ego in check, remain humble, and absorb. All right, you're not there to teach people. These are people who've been on the team longer, who've been on the job longer. You're just meant to absorb. It's not to critique, right? You're not coming from a place of critique. You don't have any authority or any experience or seniority to be able to do that. So you want to be a sponge. If you're new to this game, whatever it is, basketball, hockey, firefighting, an organization, a job, you just want to observe. All right. You've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. You want to be listening twice as much as you're speaking, if not way more listening than speaking. As you start to gain experience, there's going to be new people behind you. And your job then is to simply guide and provide insight for them. You're doing what you wish you had when you started. So little tips and tricks, stories about experiences, fires, medical calls, games that you've had. Be slow to assume authority and credibility and experience and wisdom. Okay, these things are accrued slowly over time with experience, with trial and error, with failures. And that's one of the bigger things I see people, you look at the Dunning-Kruger effect, where anytime you start something new, your perceived level of expertise climbs very rapidly as you start to learn new things, you go, oh, I think I got this figured out. Then there's a period where the graph descends. This is when you start to get deeper into the profession, the sport, whatever, and you start to realize, oh wow, I don't know anything. There's so much to learn here. I'm so brand new. This is where you start to get humble, right? But if you can maintain that humility at the top of the graph, even when you think, oh yeah, I got this figured out, if you still remain humble, you still remain open to learning and absorbing information from people with more experience and more aptitude than you, it makes this curve so much smaller. Because if you get a really big ego about it and you start to think, oh yeah, I've got everything figured out, this graph is so much longer and slower for you to realize, oh, I really don't know anything, and you're wasting all this time. So get that over quick. Cut your ego and nip it in the bud. It very seldom does it serve you on basically any team, organization, job, right? Some things, yes, if you've been doing this for a decade prior and you're brand new to the team or the organization, okay, well then, yeah, you know some things, you have some experience, you have stories to tell. But if you're new, just stay humble, stay open. Even if it seems like people who have more seniority or more experience than you don't really know what they're talking about. It seems like that. It seems like, why would they do this? This doesn't make sense. This is not what I was taught in school. This was not what I was taught in the previous league. But if you just remain open, you know, not everyone has wisdom to give, but sometimes wisdom can be paradoxical or kind of shadowed or confusing at first if you don't have the context to understand. And also take into account the messenger who's delivering the message. You know, if they're saying, "Oh man, you know, you got to take care of yourself. You got to work out on shift. You know, I did never did that, and here I am. You know, big boy." But you're taking care of yourself outside of work, and then they're demanding that you train on shift. You know, that can feel like it can be conflicting. But oftentimes, for the sake of culture and for the sake of cohesion with your team, alter your training outside of work so that you can start training with these guys on your shift. You know, same with if you're on a basketball team, right? And they're saying, oh yeah, we do free throws after every practice. It's what we do. Meanwhile, you've been doing free throws in between every practice for hours a day. Just nod your head, you know, go along with it, just do it. And let the results speak for themselves. We place so much emphasis on talking and speaking and what things have been said when really we can just show up and just let the results speak for themselves, right? Let the outcome dictate what's going on here. You know, if every call is going smooth or you keep winning games and this is what they want you to do. They want you to show up and do free throws at the end of the practice, or they want you to work out on shift or whatever. Keep doing it, even if in the back of your mind you're saying, well, I already do this on my off time. Don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. There's certain things that have to be sacrificed from yourself to fit into this team and to do anything substantial in life, in a group, in an organization, and be quick to check your ego at the door and adopt what it is, the team mentality that's coming to you. You know, it's paradoxical, but it does make sense. The better follower you are, the better leader you become. Same thing with school. The better student you are, the better teacher you become. Now, it's a heavy correlation. It's a good correlation. It's not 100%, of course, but generally speaking, that's the case. So if you're new to a team and you want to be a leader and you want to lead from the front, you want to make those tough decisions, take a step back and follow for a bit, right? Lead your own life, lead your own little corner, um, but focus on putting in the work, putting in the reps to accrue that experience and to be ready for the next game, the next call, the next challenge. And I think, yeah, humility and ego management is a huge part of being a good leader and also being a good follower. And this idea was spurred on after, a friend of mine. He's very well versed in personal training and physical fitness, and sometimes I can go, well, why are you kind of giving all this insight and this attention and this guidance to me? Like, I don't need that. But it's like, hold on. This guy studies this. He's got extensive experience competing, training. So be quick to kind of nip that in the bud and check yourself, because it's so easy for us to think that, oh, we've got it figured out. I got this. I've been doing this 6 months. I've been doing this 12 months. Like, I got this figured out. But we don't understand. We have blinders on. Whatever you do, you have blinders on. You have a limited perception, and that's filled with all your biases, all your faulty beliefs, right? And so lean on other people. If they have the results that you want, if they have a long, extensive career of success, of achievement and accomplishment, listen. Doesn't matter how silly it may sound, or whatever the delivery is like. Listen, journal about it, write it down, really process and integrate these things. If you know that you have the capacity to be a big leader, really, for the short term, focus on being a good teammate. Look at it from the lens of a leader, and think, okay, what would I want my subordinates or my teammates or whatever to do here? And do that and get good. And very quickly, you'll find yourself in leadership positions, because they'll recognize, oh, this guy listens. This guy's paying attention. He's taking notes. He's improving. He's training. He's doing the work that we've asked him to do, despite it seeming silly or redundant or whatever. And you will rise very quickly. They say build, a lot of people build an inch wide and an inch high, or an inch wide and a mile high, and then all of a sudden they tip over, they have some type of catastrophe, breakdown, etc. And they wonder, like, why? Well, it's because you are too focused on getting to the end goal too quickly. What you want to do is build out your foundation, master the fundamentals of your craft. And once you can do that, and you can be trusted to perform those very basic tasks flawlessly, then you'll start to get some more opportunities. Then you'll be asked to move on up, or to come to this call, or start in the game, or whatever that looks like. So this is first principle thinking about leadership. And leadership, in its essence, it's making difficult decisions. It's putting people in positions to succeed, and it's setting the standards. And when you don't have experience, you don't know why those things are important, or what they are even. So you got to take a step back and understand, okay, what are the standards that are set here, and why is it? And is there any way that I can elevate those standards just by doing me, not by telling anybody else what they've got to do, just by me showing up and being prepared, taking care of my equipment, my uniform, showing up to practice early, on time, getting those extra reps, making difficult decisions. When you're a teammate and you're observing a leader making those difficult decisions, oftentimes you don't have access to all the variables that they do. And so it can be easy for you to go, well, why wouldn't you just, why not just, but you don't see what they see. And so, again, kind of be quick to nip your ego in the bud and just cut it down. Um, you don't. This is that ego that enlarges and thinks that, oh, I got to figure it out. I can do this. Because you've had some success recently, or maybe you made a call that worked out. But this is about longevity. This is about whatever it is your craft is. It's about performing at a high level for a very long time. And you don't do that by jumping to conclusions or to thinking you got it figured out. Um, what's his name? Oh, I wish I could remember his name. He's this business person on YouTube. He talks about the characteristics that make a good entrepreneur. And he talks about neuroticism or anxiety. And he says the worried rabbit lives. It's the rabbit who's chilling, who's got it all figured out. What's that noise? Oh, it's probably just the wind. Who's dinner for someone else. And so, be a little bit concerned. Like, do I have everything figured out here? Do I have all my bases covered? What if this happens? Am I prepared for that? You start thinking about all these different things. Very quickly, you're ready to handle these challenges. When they inevitably pop up, you do. Leadership recognizes that. And that's the third piece, putting people in positions to succeed. If you demonstrate that you've got the skills to handle these challenges that will pop up on occasion, we need a clutch guy who's going to save us. We need a guy who's going to lock down on defense and set the tone early. We need someone who's going to talk and set the tone on the floor for our guys, both offensively and defensively. You recognize these things early in a leadership position if you're the coach. And respectively, if you're a captain or a lieutenant or a chief, you see these type of characteristics pretty early on. And it's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. You put in that work, and if you're aiming for a blue belt or a purple belt or a brown belt or a black belt, every time you show up to practice and you don't get promoted, in your eyes, it's a failure. So you start building this resentment. You're like, why not me? Why not now? I deserve this. That's this entitlement that kind of infects so many different areas of life right now. In this life that we live, we're so used to this short-term instant gratification. Slow it down, all right? Ease up on the expectations. This goes back to the basic strength principles. It's like people want to double their squat in 6 months. Like, these things take time. Greatness takes time. And I don't know about you, but I want to be great. So I'm taking the long road. I'm not comparing myself to others. I'm not being envious or jealous about where XYZ person is at in the hierarchy or in the promotions or seniority or on the team or whatever. I don't care. I want the end result. I want success, right? And in firefighting, that's calls going well, that's lives saved on the basketball court, that's games won. It's not 45 points and a loss, oh, cool. You put out the fire, but we lost 5 people in there. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that. So understand the very basic fundamentals. This is first principle operations here and thinking. Understand the fundamentals. What does your day consist of? How do I get better at creating systems for those so that I don't have to think about it and worry about it? I can set it kind of on autopilot. This is just what I do now. I just show up prepared. I do my truck checks. I clean. I train, right? It's a part of your identity. It's the integrity that I'm talking about. Anyways, I know I kind of jumped around quite a bit, but this is leadership and teamwork in a nutshell. And this is coming from someone who has a demonstrated track record of success in leadership, won awards, and participated on teams. I understand what it takes. I was very late to the game to understanding I'm a leader because these things would often just fall in my lap, and all of a sudden I'm making decisions and I'm choosing people who are going to do what jobs, and this is natural when you're a leader. You have these qualities, these situations come up, and it's important that recognize the stakes. If it's pretty low stakes, step up to the plate, man. Make a decision, set a standard, or put someone in a place to succeed and maximize their strengths. And maybe if you're ready and the stakes are high, don't be scared. Courage, that's another quality of a leader. So anyways, I'm going on 25 minutes here. It's ridiculous. But just a few things to chew on. And as always, if you liked it, leave a comment. Let me know what you think or any questions that you have. And please subscribe if you enjoy these. I enjoy making them, so I hope you enjoy watching them. So anyways, thanks so much. All the best. Much love. Peace.